It was late October, the kind of morning where the sun barely breaks through the gray clouds, and the trees outside my school looked almost dead with their last few red and orange leaves clinging on. I was a junior at the time, sitting in my history class, already zoning out as the teacher went on about the American Revolution. I remember staring at the clock above the whiteboard, just waiting for the bell to ring, when the intercom suddenly buzzed. Attention staff and students, we are going into lockdown. This is not a drill. Those words sent a chill through me. Every time we practiced drills, it was obvious. The staff would say so beforehand, or we'd laugh and roll our eyes as we shuffled to the corners of the room. But this time, the tone of the voice was serious, urgent. Our teacher reacted immediately. He shut off the lights, locked the door, and motioned for us to move away from the windows. "Phones off, quiet," he whispered firmly. We all crouched along the back wall, our knees drawn up, trying to make ourselves small. The room filled with the nervous shuffle of sneakers against tile, and then silence. I could hear my own heartbeat. I could hear someone breathing shakily beside me. One of the girls in class had tears welling up in her eyes, and another was biting her sleeve, trying to keep herself calm. At first, it was just silence. Silence and that low electric hum of the overhead lights, even though they were switched off. But then, I heard footsteps. Heavy, uneven footsteps echoing down the hallway outside. They stopped for a moment, and then started again. My heart skipped, then came another sound. A noise from the other side of the room. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but then I realized it was coming from the windows. Our room was on the first floor, facing the parking lot, and when I glanced up, I saw him. A man, maybe mid-30s, scruffy beard, messy hair, wearing a gray hoodie and jeans. He wasn't a teacher, wasn't a parent. He didn't belong there. He was standing just outside the glass, staring in. His face was pressed against the window. His breath fogged the glass, and his eyes. His eyes looked wild, like he wasn't completely there. The girl next to me let out a muffled sob. The teacher motioned for her to stay quiet, but the man outside tilted his head slowly, as if he was studying us. And then he lifted his hand. He started tapping. At first, it was faint, almost playful. Tap, 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 then harder. Tap, 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 until the whole glass panel shook. I could feel my stomach drop. The man's eyes never blinked, never looked away. He was staring right into the dark classroom, right at us. The teacher crouched, whispering, "Stay down. Do not move." The tapping grew into full-on pounding. He slammed his palms into the glass so hard I thought it would shatter. My heart was racing so fast I felt lightheaded. I wanted to scream, but the room was dead silent except for the pounding. Then, suddenly, it stopped. The man stepped back from the window, disappearing into the darkness outside. We couldn't see him anymore. For a full minute, nobody moved. It was like we were frozen in place, waiting for the sound of the glass breaking. But instead, the silence was broken by the faint sound of sirens. They grew louder, filling the parking lot. Red and blue lights flashed through the blinds. Police swarmed the area outside. Eventually, an officer banged on the classroom door and identified himself. Our teacher unlocked it, and we were escorted out. The man had been caught near the football field, wandering aimlessly. He was armed with a knife. That was all they told us. The school never said why he was there or what his intentions were. But I'll never forget the way he looked at me. His eyes pressed against the glass, wide and lifeless, as he pounded harder and harder. Like he wasn't just trying to get in, like he was waiting for me to move. And sometimes, when I close my eyes at night, I still see his face, fogging up the window, staring. I was in 8th grade when this happened, and it's something I still think about every single time I hear an intercom buzz. It was a normal Tuesday morning, nothing unusual about the day. The kind of day where you're half asleep at your desk, doodling in the margins of your notebook while the teacher goes over vocabulary words. My class was in the middle of English when the loudspeaker clicked on with a sharp pop. Students and staff, came the principal's voice. "Please begin a lockdown immediately. This is not a drill." The room went silent. Our teacher froze mid-sentence, then rushed to lock the door, flip off the lights, and usher us away from the windows. "Move, move, quickly, now," she whispered urgently. We all crouched in the back corner, pressed together, knees against our chests. I remember the stillness. The silence was almost unbearable. The only sounds were the occasional nervous breath or the squeak of someone's shoes against the floor. 10 minutes went by, then 15, nothing. And then? The intercom crackled again, but it wasn't the principal this time. The voice that came through was low, male, shaky, almost like a whisper fed through the speakers. "Don't hide," it said slowly. "I can see you." We all froze. Every hair on the back of my neck stood straight up. Our teacher's eyes went wide. She looked as scared as we were. The voice let out a faint, broken laugh. Then it continued. "Room 112. I'm coming." Our stomachs dropped. That was our classroom, room 112. A girl beside me clamped her hands over her mouth to keep from crying. My teacher put a finger to her lips, mouthing, "Don't move." Then came the footsteps. Slow, dragging footsteps in the hallway. They weren't hurried. Whoever it was, they were taking their time. Each step echoed through the empty building like a hammer. The footsteps stopped right outside our door. The handle turned. It rattled once, twice. Whoever it was pressed against it, but the lock held. The door shook as they pulled harder. My chest was so tight I thought I'd pass out. Then it went quiet, dead quiet. And after a few seconds, the footsteps started again. This time moving away, fading down the hall. We sat in silence for what felt like hours. Eventually, the principal's real voice came back on the intercom, steady and firm. "The lockdown is now over. Please return to your normal schedules." Our teacher didn't move right away. She whispered, "Stay put," until a police officer physically knocked on our door to escort us out. When we finally made it to the office, everyone was buzzing with questions. Who was in the building? What happened? Were we safe? The truth turned out to be even worse than I could have imagined. Someone had broken into the school's PA system from a maintenance closet down the hall. They'd used the microphone inside to speak directly into our classroom speakers. The security cameras showed no face, no ID. Just a figure in dark clothes entering the closet, and then leaving before police arrived. To this day, they never found out who it was. Some people said it was a sick prank. Some said it was a student trying to scare everyone. But the thing that haunts me the most is how that voice knew our room number. How it rattled our door handle, like it knew exactly where we were hiding. Even now, years later, I can still hear that voice in my head. Slow, shaky, wrong. Don't hide. I can see you. And sometimes I wonder, was it just a prank? Or did someone really know we were inside? This happened during my freshman year of high school. And it is something I still can't explain, no matter how many times I go over it in my head. It was second period, a Monday morning. I remember because I was exhausted from staying up too late the night before, and I ducked into the bathroom right before the bell. The tiled halls were empty, just that faint squeak of my sneakers echoing against the lockers. I figured I had a minute before class, but that was when the lockdown alarm went off. The siren blared through the hall. A voice came over the intercom, rushed and sharp. "Lockdown. This is not a drill." I froze. Everyone else was already in class, doors locked, lights out. But I was stuck in the boys' bathroom. No lock on the main door, no way to barricade myself in. My stomach dropped. My first thought was to hide. The stalls were the only option, so I ducked into the far one and climbed onto the toilet seat, curling my feet up so no one could see them under the door. My heart was already pounding. I tried to slow my breathing, but every exhale sounded way too loud in that echoing room. For a while, it was quiet, dead quiet. Just the low hum of the fluorescent light overhead and the faint ringing in my ears. Then came the sound. Footsteps. They weren't rushed, like a teacher running to lock a door. They were slow, deliberate. Each step smacked against the tile outside the bathroom. My chest tightened. The footsteps stopped. The bathroom door creaked open. I nearly choked on my breath. Whoever it was stepped inside, the echo of their shoes bouncing off the tile walls. They didn't move fast. They just walked slowly, heel to toe, closer. They checked the first stall. I heard the squeak of the metal door being nudged, then the second, then the third. The sound of those hinges groaning open made me want to cover my ears. Finally, they reached mine. I stared down at the faint shadow on the floor, black shoes, unmoving, right outside the thin partition of the stall. Whoever it was stood there in silence, and then, the breathing started. It wasn't mine. It wasn't quick or panicked. It was slow, steady, a long inhale, then a dragging exhale. I could feel it vibrating through the thin stall door. I clamped my hand over my mouth. My chest burned from holding my breath. Then came a sound that froze me completely, a tap. Just one, against the metal stall door, like a finger knocking lightly. Then another, tap, tap, and then, silence again. The shadow lingered a moment longer, then shifted. The footsteps started up once more, moving back toward the door. The bathroom door creaked again, and then it was quiet. I stayed frozen in that stall for what felt like an eternity. I didn't dare move until I heard the intercom blare again, announcing the lockdown was over. I bolted out of the stall, heart racing, and ran straight to the main office. I remember blurting out everything at once. That someone had been in the bathroom, that they'd checked every stall, that they stood outside mine. The officer stationed there frowned and shook his head. He told me nobody had entered that hallway during the lockdown. The cameras showed it was empty. Security officers had been stationed at both ends. I tried to argue, to insist that I wasn't making it up. But he just gave me that look adults give when they think you're overreacting. The rest of the day passed like a blur. Everyone else talked about how boring the lockdown was, how it was probably just a drill that had gone too far. But I couldn't shake the sound of those slow breaths on the other side of the door. And the taps, those two soft taps that told me, whoever it was, knew exactly where I was hiding. Sometimes, when I'm in a public bathroom alone, I'll still catch myself glancing at the gap under the stall door, waiting for a shadow to appear. And I'll never stop wondering, if the cameras showed no one there, then who was in that bathroom with me? It was my senior year of high school, last period of the day. Everyone was already restless, waiting for the final bell so we could leave. The classroom had that heavy, late afternoon feeling, the buzz of fluorescent lights overhead, the low hum of kids whispering, tapping pencils, staring at the clock. Then the intercom crackled on. Attention staff and students, we are going into lockdown. This is not a drill. The teacher stopped mid-sentence. The air in the room shifted immediately, like all the energy drained out at once. She dropped the marker, rushed to lock the door, and killed the lights. Phones away, quiet. Against the wall, she whispered. We all shuffled into the far corner, knees pulled up, pressed shoulder to shoulder in the dark. The classroom felt so much smaller in that silence. I could hear my own breathing, and the sound of someone's shaky exhale beside me. Minutes crawled by, nothing. No footsteps in the hall, no sound from outside. Just silence, thick and heavy. Then, a knock. It was loud, echoing through the door. Every single head in that room snapped toward the sound. And then a voice followed. It's Mr. Carter, let me in. It's not safe out here. Mr. Carter was the janitor. We all knew him. He was older, friendly, the guy who joked with students and held the doors open in the mornings. Hearing his voice was almost a relief. Our teacher stood, but she hesitated with her hand on the lock. I could see her silhouette outlined against the faint light from the hallway window. Her voice was low, barely audible. Something's not right. Another knock. Louder this time. Please, let me in. Hurry. It was his voice. No doubt about it. But there was something in the tone. Wrong, off. It sounded rushed, but almost too rushed, like he was forcing it. The teacher backed away from the door. She shook her head firmly and whispered, No. We all sat frozen, listening to the silence that followed. Then, from further down the hallway, another knock echoed, harder, sharper, and another voice. It's Mr. Carter, please open the door. Two voices. Both of them claiming to be him, one just outside our classroom. The other further away, down the hall. The knocks overlapped, pounding from two directions at once, like they were mocking us. I could feel the tension in the room tighten, kids gripping each other's arms, trying not to cry. Our teacher crouched low, whispering, Stay quiet. Do not move. For what felt like an eternity, the knocks continued, back and forth, near, then far, like whoever, or whatever, was out there was circling us. Playing a game, and then, silence again. Minutes passed. Nobody dared speak. Nobody even shifted. Eventually, the sound of heavy boots pounded through the hall, followed by a firm voice. Police, stay where you are. Our door opened only after officers cleared the hall and confirmed it was safe. They led us out, one by one. The tension broke into a mix of nervous laughter and tears, kids muttering about how insane it had been. But the truth made it worse. When I finally saw Mr. Carter later, standing in the cafeteria with officers, He looked completely confused when I asked if he'd been near our hallway. He shook his head. He said he'd been with police the entire time, helping them secure the building. I pressed him, but we heard you. You were at the door. His expression turned uneasy. He swore on his life he hadn't left the cafeteria. So who knocked, and why were there two of them? That question has stayed with me ever since. Whenever I hear a knock at my door late at night, I think of that moment. Two voices, both pretending to be someone safe, both begging to be let in. And I wonder what would have happened if our teacher had unlocked the door.